So everybody, thanks for coming. I want to have a few introductory remarks before we go to Mike is going to speak and Phil and perhaps Bob will grace us and some folks. It's a day, in my view, for numbers. 1,000, it's the number of unsheltered folks in the city of Santa Cruz. 0, the number of toilets that are open after 10 o'clock at night. 5, the number of council members who have expressed, out of 7, who expressed absolutely no interest in this issue. 6 is really the number of porta potties that we would like to, through conscious action, through the graces of ACLU, UNA, Food Not Bombs, placed strategically around the city to provide 24-hour bathroom access for folks. It's going to take some effort, it's going to take some fundraising, but I think that we can do it. 25 is the day that we have here and an opportunity to go into oral communication. 2 is the number of minutes you'll be able to speak. But please consider going in and expressing your belief about what you think is important on this day of not only bathroom access, but winter shelter concerns, community caring generally, changing the narrative about homelessness in our city. I think that the thing we really need to do is remember that 68% of the people who were unsheltered tonight were Santa Cruz residents when they became unsheltered. We need to remember that these are friends and neighbors. We need to remember that we're all just one paycheck away from being poorer and homeless ourselves. Those are the things we should take with us, but today is an opportunity to go to your city council, to express yourself to them, and to let them know that this is a real issue amongst people who care in this community. I do note that the Rabbi Phil Posner has asked the mayor for 4 minutes to make a presentation, so you all want to stay for that, to listen to his impassioned speech. I think there will be many people who speak passionately, but my role here is to speak practically, and believe me, I'm as surprised as anybody by that. But we really need to pursue the process that we've commenced with the city, and that is to get the permit for our citizen-sponsored bathrooms. That proposal is very live. That proposal can happen. And I believe that we are on a path right now to have 6 24-hour access bathrooms with hand washing stations placed in strategic places around the city by the end of October. That is what we can do now. Politics is the art of the possible. Maybe tomorrow we'll tackle the impossible, and that is sheltering all the people who need to be sheltered, providing mental and behavioral health services and support for the people who need it, provide real opportunities for housing in our community, lift people up out of poverty. Those are the things that we can and should and need to do. Those are our tasks for tomorrow, but today, let's speak to City Council, let's push forward our bathroom proposal, let's talk about the winter shelter, let's talk about changing the narrative about houselessness in Santa Cruz, and let's all be here together and see what we can accomplish. So thanks for coming, and let's get it done. See you later. Who's next? Micah, you want to talk? Say hello.
Hello. My name is Micah Posner. I'm glad to see people here caring about the rights of people that don't have houses currently, and obviously both ethically and according to the Constitution, the city needs to treat people that don't have homes and make sure that they have a right, that they're not treated with cruel and unusual punishment. In other words, that they're not criminalized for sleeping and that they have a place to go to the bathroom. So I'm glad that people are keeping this issue live. I was on the city council, and just in my opinion, I think the reason we don't have 24-hour bathrooms has to do with the city as a corporation, like not wanting to, not caring enough about citizens that don't have homes. Because what I saw in the council when I was there was that we did have a majority, including the council member Pamela Comstock from Take Back Santa Cruz, wanted the bathrooms as well. So it seems like in the community as a whole, and even on the council, there's a recognition that having bathrooms open helps everyone in the community of any class, whether they have homes or not. The problem is that the staff really don't want to do it. So they don't want to clean them all night, and they don't want to deal with it. So it's great that you guys are keeping this issue live for the community. My suggestion is that we all work. It's election season right now, so we have a unique opportunity to work to elect council members who care more about values and less about the nuts and bolts, dollars and cents of each staff member. So Drew Glover, Justin, I think they would have a more idealistic approach to their job on city council, which hopefully would result in bathrooms being open more. But yeah, I mean, obviously the city staff at all levels continue to violate the Constitution. They continue to promote cruel and unusual punishment by the trespassing tickets and other things, and not having the bathrooms open. So we need a city council to stand up and impose values on the city as a corporation. At the moment, I think our best chance for that is to get a different city council. But anyways, it's great everyone's here and still caring about these issues and bringing them forward. I really appreciate seeing folks care so much.
Can you describe what happened with the bathroom situation while you were on city council? You mentioned Pamela Comstock was instrumental. Actually, she was the one who kept pushing the staff and actually got one bathroom open for half a year, the one in the Soquel parking garage.
Right, well, she and I were doing it together. I want some credit, but she was more of a surprise vote, yeah, because people assumed that she would care about that, and she did. So it's been a history of the staff either specifically outward rebelling or just kind of putting inertia in the way. I mean, there was one moment where Comstock and I actually put it in the budget to open that bathroom, and then the staff just didn't do it, period. Like, the Director of Public Works just ignored the fact that it was in the budget for 6 months, and then we finally put it back in, and then he did it for a while, and then the staff took it back out of the budget. And so, it's the same with Loud Nelson. Like, the staff hate the idea of keeping the bathroom open. I think the public is really clear the bathroom should be open. So the problem with this sort of fragile version of democracy is that the job of the council is to impose values of the community onto the staff on a day-to-day level, and they don't always do it. And this particular council is particularly bad at doing it.
All right. Hey, who's next? Who wants to speak next?
Yeah, I want to say. Micah, I'm a co-founder of this Conscience in Action, Nicholas Whitehead. Speaker Micah, the former councilman, said that the staff don't like having to clean bathrooms sort of round the clock. Even if it's overtime, I guess they still don't like it. But we don't have to have regular staff doing all that. It doesn't have to be a big union job, We can have a public service corps made up of, like the downtown cleaners who look after the streets. We could have a corps like that of lesser skilled people. They're not going to earn as much, but hey, let's create some jobs, public service jobs, looking after these bathrooms round the clock. How about that?
Thank you, Nick.
I was going to say this to you privately. I've been looking for you.
No, we don't do anything private here.
Come.
It's all public. It's all public. Go ahead.
Democracy in action.
Come listen.
Go ahead.
So I spoke to the Downtown Streets team.
Say who you are.
I'm a social justice advocate. I spoke to the people
What's
at the
your name?
Downtown Streets team.
What's your name?
In San Jose. They're very willing to manage the bathrooms.
Yeah.
All they need is a contract and funding. So
Wow.
that issue
That's good.
is off the table, and I wanted to be sure you knew that.
Very well.
Well,
Well,
it's
now
not
we have
on the
more
table here.
opportunity.
It's on the table here.
No, all we
Yeah.
need is to get it going and give them the contract.
Sweet.
So-
Love it.
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
Thank you.
I didn't either. Could you repeat it?
Yeah, could you repeat what you said?
The Downtown Streets organization
Yeah.
is willing to maintain public bathrooms in the city.
When did that happen? Because when
I spoke to them,
Well, you can do it soon.
and all I need is a contract and money. I mean, they're not willing to do it for free, but they're willing to manage it, and they've done it other places.
does
That's
the
for,
city manager know that?
no, nobody knows that, because I wanted to tell you people first.
Oh, thank you.
So he's in.
Yes.
Go ahead. What you got?
Dennis had to.
Okay, my name is Dennis Etler. I'm an anthropologist. And I spent quite a bit of time in China back in the 1980s and 90s. And there were public latrines, throughout wherever I went, in cities and country. They were rudimentary, squat toilets and open pits and lots of flies, but they were available. But more recently, there is a new revolution in China. China is known for revolution, right? Well, now in China, there is the toilet revolution. And the toilet revolution has been mandated from on high. Xi Jinping, the president of China, has actually been stomping the country, advocating for the toilet revolution. So I'm going to just read a little bit here about the toilet revolution because, it's much better said here than I could possibly convey. So here it goes, and this is from a major journal, a major newspaper in China, Global Times, and the title is "More Awareness of Sanitation Needed." Okay? China should continue to upgrade the country's toilets as part of its toilet revolution, aimed at developing domestic tourism. Of course, we have tourism here, so if you want to develop local tourism as well, and improving people's quality of life, China's President Xi Jinping said. Now, just imagine if our president, would say something. Well, he talks about shit houses, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he talks about, these countries being, throughout the world being shit houses, but he doesn't do anything about the shit here in this country now, does he? But China's taking care of that, okay? So, the construction of clean toilets is an important part of pushing urban and rural civilization. Now get that. They're actually concerned in China about promoting civilized behavior.
Oh, come.
Can you believe that? And more efforts should be made in both cities and rural areas to upgrade toilets. So, Xi, the president of China, said in a recent instruction on the achievement of the toilet revolution carried out throughout the country. Along with the toilet revolution, China should construct better public facilities and services to boost the tourism industry, she said. She has long stressed the importance of the toilet revolution in enhancing the quality of the tourism industry, and officials are urged to make consistent efforts and take tailored measures to tackle long-standing issues and correct bad habits regarding toilets. Local authorities are now more aware of the important role toilets play, believing that better facilities are not only beneficial for tourism, but can also improve the environment that people work and live in and enhance the overall level of civilization of society. Now imagine that. There you have a government committed to a toilet revolution. Where is our government at all levels, from local to state to federal? Where is our toilet revolution?
Here, here. We've been listening to Dennis Hetler.
Yes.
So, this is a speak out, everybody. If people want to speak out, come over here and speak out about this. Everybody, this here is the Loudon Nelson bathrooms. Opening them up.
Actually, I have Shogun to speak. Shogun, right over here, if he's ready.
Okay.
Shogun, are you ready to speak?
Are you about to leave?
Think about it. So you got one, right?
You got his attention.
Let me know when you're good to go.
Where's this going to be published?
I'm going.
It's going to be on public.
The issue to me
Yeah.
boils down to enabling homelessness. And I think that's the correct way to put it. It's the most strident way to put it. And the bottom line is we can only push this issue away so far until we morph and become, let's just say, for lack of a better metaphor, India, with the untouchables and homeless people living on the streets with no regard. So it's a question of leadership. And this is on all levels, including city, county, state, and national. It's an acknowledgement that something has to be done of major proportions. Now, the bathroom issue, as being expressed here today, is a very good pivot issue on this case for what do you do with the homeless? Do you keep pushing them away, or do you come to a point where you say we simply have to enable homelessness in order to accept the reality that is before us, rather than
continue to exist in denial, which is where we're at right now. So something has to change. It might be a couple of years away, and I've been refuted on this. Well, how long can you stop from dealing with the issue that, my goodness, if you drive down in this town, Coral Street between River and Limekiln, you'll see 100 people lined out in the street that are homeless and living in abject, wretched, disgusting poverty. So we can push it away maybe for a couple more years, but we're going to deal with this, and we're going to deal with it in a way that requires a great society amount of money. It requires redistribution of wealth and a change in our values. Where we're at now is a state of denial, and that includes leadership on the city council. Nobody talks about it. They say it's a regional issue. We don't have the money. They have money to build an arena in 90 days or less, and the money was raised immediately. They just sold a property in Scotts Valley for nearly $9 million. These things can be done. We don't want to do them because we're afraid, once again, and I'll conclude on this, that we're going to appear to be enabling homelessness. And that seems to be a bullet through the political capital. Thank
We've
you.
been listening to
Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob, thank you, Robert.
Good job, Bob.
Thank you.
Shogun. let's-
Shogun?
Yes, please.
So we actually have you're outside, Bob, Shogun, yourself?
I'm sorry?
You're outside?
Yes,
Any good experiences with the bathrooms?
Bob LaMonica. And thank you, Wes.
Go ahead with what your thoughts are on the situation.
I'm quite satisfied with my situation. I live outdoors. I have a safe camp, secure camp as far as I know. I've had nothing stolen. I've had no issues with the police officer or any authorities since I've been in Santa Cruz. Wonderful people here, friendly people. I am fully sustained, fully healthy. That one took a minute to come out. Please edit that out at some point. Fully healthy and enjoying my life. I'm from the East Coast, Northeast Coast. I recently arrived in California back in February, and I fully intend to retire in Santa Cruz. I am not homeless. I'm fully independent of the system, and I'm fully unplugged unless I decide to log on to the Wi-Fi at their local public library. That's pretty much all I have to say. Do you have any questions?
I'm just wondering, because we're here trying to reopen the Loudon Nelson bathroom.
Yes.
You have any thoughts on that subject?
Well, I have quite a bit of thoughts on this. I mean, the situation is I've been on both sides. I had difficulty with my business, went bankrupt about 10 years ago, and a very, very difficult divorce. It almost destroyed me, and it's a long time coming back. So, having been on both sides of the street, would I want my daughters going in some of these bathrooms after some of these people have wrecked them? No. But now that I'm homeless, I need some place to go to the bathroom. Fortunately, I have taken care of all those things already. So it's a matter of both sides coming together and forming some type of agreement so that all of us can coexist together as far as I can see things in my limited perspective. Both the homeless need to, or not the homeless, because they're not necessarily homeless. Homeless, everything is a state of mind. If you change your perspective, you change your reality. So if you don't, I'm not homeless. I do not look homeless. I do not present myself as homeless. So from there, the social systems, there's enough income in this country, generated income, so that everyone can be taken care of. Everyone can be fed and everyone can be sheltered. Okay, everyone should have proper health. But the situation is, and I don't have to go into it because we all are quite aware of this at this time, is that I'm not going to point any fingers, but those that are in power are consolidating their power, and they wish to get rid of the people that don't conform to their status quo through the dogmatic practices that they have practiced and have transferred down through from generation to generation throughout history. We are living in a state of Babylon, and always are living in a state of Babylon. And there's only one solution for that, but you have to figure that one out for yourself.
We've been talking with?
Shogun.
Thanks, Shogun.
Rude boy Shogun.
Thank you, Rude Boy.
All these eloquent speakers.
We finally got a woman up here.
You had a really good one.
I need to share this with my greater community, so once you're done, I'd like to get all your information. Sure. And you need to share with me because I'm doing something on Facebook that I think is good.
Okay.
Santa Cruz, California deserves better. Open policies and legislation. Santa Cruz County people with special needs require access to all public and retail bathrooms that have employee bathrooms. That includes the elderly, the disabled, and those without housing. According to HUD, the national statistics, 42 to 44% of the U.S. homeless population has debilitating disease or disorders that interfere with their activities of daily living and independent functioning. The Restroom Act, called Ali's Law, is a legislation that was passed and recognized by Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington. Where is Progressive California in this list of states? There are also federal support for this legislation. Ali's Law is mainly for retail businesses. This law gives people with medical conditions the right to access a toilet. In Oregon and Tennessee, a person can present a medical card, and they are called can't wait cards. My own disabilities include irritable bowel, bowel and bladder, anxiety and stress-related incontinence, food allergies, and decreased alerting sensation in my bowel. Family surgery, faulty surgery probably caused rectocele and cystocele tearing. I also have frequent bladder infections caused by a prolapsed bladder. I try to prevent and self-treat until it is no longer effective, and I wind up in excruciating pain. Since the travesty of closing of restrooms in Santa Cruz, public buildings such as City Hall, except when there are special events or meetings, and Loudon Nelson Center, where there are only the patrons, those people who attend events 15 minutes before, during, and after their events can have access to toilets. This reeks of micro-discrimination. It is especially harmful to the poor, who cannot always pay for that yummy coffee cake or those delicious cups of tea or coffee in their cafe. It is degrading to be turned away from a bathroom because of an inability to pay to attend their events. There are, of course, the senior meals, but what happens to the people that are not seniors? There are, where do they fit in the community? The people of Santa Cruz deserve better. The intent of Ali's Law is never again, and that is never again shall someone soil themselves because they can't get into a bathroom. This never again law needs to be extended to all Santa Cruz County government buildings and all parks and recreation areas, as well as retail stores for our neighbors who live outside 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Bathrooms are needed by law. My own humiliating and distressing experiences include not having access to a toilet at Ross retail store, which was formerly an open bathroom, and being refused access to the restaurant room at London Nelson Center, called Loudon Nelson Center, and that's another issue that I'd like to address, which was formerly an open bathroom. People who support human dignity and the right to a decent bathroom can make an impact by affirmative action. Boycott stores that do not have open bathrooms. Boycott restaurants that only let their patrons go to the bathroom. Vote current government and representatives out. And here in Santa Cruz, all of the candidates for city council voted, except for one, said that they would be for public bathrooms being opened.
That's true.
Picket stores and public buildings that have closed to the community bathrooms. Join in street theater, directing people of the community and visitors and tourists where they can find a decent toilet to sit on. And please support the people here. Food Not Bombs, Huff, Homeless Depot, and Poor People's. Thank you. What is it called? Poor People's Campaign. Thank you.
Conscious in action. There we go. Yeah, I think you're part of it too, yeah?
Hi, I'm Becky Johnson, and I brought my Santa Cruz 11 pin today to remind people of the situation regarding all of these empty buildings that we find in our community. You've seen them. They have for lease and for rent signs, sometimes for years at a time. Or perhaps it's a house that's for sale but somehow never sells. We have a situation where properties that have been taken over by banks through foreclosure wind up in a whole, like a portfolio of assets called non-performing assets. And the banks borrow against the value of that property, what it would rent for, what the rent, preferably they'll rent it to someone at a really high, above market rent, and then they'll get those people out of there, and then it'll be empty from then on. But that bank is using that high rental value and using it to go to the Federal Reserve and get, 9 times that amount that they go into their reserves that end up being loans to you, people like you and me when we're going out to finance a car or a house. It's like, and yet this empty building becomes a completely dead spot in your community as though a bomb landed on it. There's no commerce going through it. There's no jobs generated by this property. There's very little tax income, which they're very good about paying, by the way. And there's if it's a housing unit, then no person is living in it. And not only that, because people are not living in it, that housing starts to degrade over time without people living in it. And it actually reduces the housing stock over time. But the bank does not care because they're making so much money on these empty buildings. And the reason I brought it up is because back in 2011, a bunch of activists took over an empty building. It was an empty bank building, and about 2.5 months later, 13 of us were arrested for bank robbery, I guess. I say that we robbed that bank, and we robbed it for 3 whole days. But that building remained empty for years afterwards. I think they're refurbishing it now, and I think another bank is going in. So, but that's just one example of an empty building that should have been available for a community organization, a nonprofit, a charity, a community center, a daycare center. I mean, there's so many uses these buildings can go to. And so it was not fun getting charged with felonies and being dragged through the court system for the 11 months myself and a year and a half some other people. But the point is, We have to do something about these empty buildings. And I recommend a couple strategies. One, we should tax the hell out of any property that doesn't have a tenant in it. It should be too expensive for them to pull this off. That would be, you can do that with a stroke of a pen. You could have that happen. Another method would be to file lawsuits against these buildings and say that they're not unlawful possession of that. We could make a case with that too. So it could be approached through the courts too. So there are different ways to address it, but here we're in California, we have very limited real estate that we can build on. You can't build on the beach or in the mountain slope or down in the floodplain. So we have to maximize the existing housing we already have, and that includes commercial buildings. So all of these are roots of why the homeless issue is so difficult. Now I'm here for the bathroom protest, which is, of course, that the city of Santa Cruz has been closing public bathrooms all over town. Bathrooms that had been open for years and serving the public. And it's an anti-homeless policy, clearly, although I don't know if they admit to it, but it's a public health emergency like about 3 or 4 times a day for every homeless person. And the city of Santa Cruz needs to open these bathrooms back up. Thank you. Jackie Johnson.
Speak, Jim?
Sure. Hello there, my name's Jim Weller. And Robert asked me to come down and say something on the topic of the bathrooms being not available downtown. So I'll limit my comments to that. And I don't think I want to speak more broadly. There's a lot more broad things to speak about, but on this issue, if you're a human being, you need to shit frequently. If you're not a cyborg or a web crawler, then you're going to need to call nature's duty, and you're going to need the use of a toilet. In any decent city, we would provide available, decent toilet facilities sufficient for everyone who lives in the city on every block. If you go to an international airport anywhere in the United States, you'll find that there's a well-maintained, clean, expansive, modern toilet facility within 2 or 3 minutes walk wherever you are inside the terminal. The reason that those facilities are kept in good condition is because employees are paid a lot of money to constantly clean them. That's what it takes to maintain a public toilet facility. You have to clean it frequently because people do not take care of them. It's not just homeless people, it's the average public. The average person in the United States, for some reason, loves to trash the hell out of a public bathroom. You'll see it everywhere you go. In the city of Santa Cruz, if we don't have enough available money to make sure that there's a decent, available public toilet facility within a minute or 2 walk from any location in the main city center, then we're not doing enough. We've got to do that. There's no reason we can't do that. It's not a money problem. You can build a decent standalone toilet for less than $20,000. If it's a Cadillac toilet like they have in downtown San Jose, the ones that automatically clean themselves, that's $100,000, and those are nice, but we don't have to do that. We don't have to put up a bunch of funky porta potties on corners that'll get trashed and not maintained. We can build decent restrooms. There's no reason why we can't do that. We ought to do it. There's no excuse. It simply has to be done. The city of Santa Cruz has the power to engage the local public, that means business owners and nonprofit owners, to work with the city to provide the necessary toilet facilities. The city can raise and gather together the necessary money to do it. It's not beyond reason, it's not behind comprehension. It's something that Tina Scholl, our outstanding city manager's assistant, could work out like that. If she can go on a $250,000 spending spree at Amazon in order to buy tents and facilities for the River Street shelter, then she can build 10 or 20 public toilets. And we've got to do it. That's all I got to say. Jim Zeller.
Hey, Jane, you're next. Or are you next? Because you want to speak next.
Well, I'll be very brief. I've cleaned a lot of toilets in my life, so I feel like I have some experience around toilets. And I've looked for a lot of toilets in my life, so I know what that's like. And, you know, Dennis mentioned China, and I'm just going to be really general when you asked me, and I thought, you know, America has a toilet problem. It had a toilet problem for black people, it had a toilet problem for farm workers, and it has a toilet problem for disenfranchised. It's part of making America not great. So, you know, it's a bit, and I'm a member of the United Nations Association. And really a bottom line is providing those kinds of basics for human beings, so.
We've been talking about
Jean Perrin.
Thanks, Jean.
Make a differentiation. I don't know which is worse, being cold and outside or being all wet after you pee on yourself. Or you know, having to use some area that you're hoping you can hide yourself.
Okay, here's
And
the young
have
man
clothes
coming in.
to represent yourself.
Daryl.
So yes,
all we have left is breakfast.
a place that's not always warm at all, and so it's lacking the amount of bathrooms necessary to keep people feeling like they. They should that they're welcome to be in the town. It just gives that feeling of inclusiveness, which is the direction it's heading, the way the council's looking at things. You know,
He's a wise man, Daryl. Can you?
there's one step forward, one step back.
bread?
We just heard them about something new for the. I don't want to go on with that. I just want to say that that people have to be aware that you know there's a lot of things to think about with your basic human rights, and one of them is having a place where you can feel comfortable and private. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Coral.
Thanks, Coral.
Keith, more? Yeah, and then, one more? He's not there.
Okay, so I'm Keith, and I'm one of the co-founders of Food Not Bombs. And I wanted to share a little story today. So we have a concert tomorrow. David Rovick's coming to perform at Loudon Nelson. And so I went down to talk to Jack, as they suggested I do. And so I went in, I just rushed from a doctor's appointment to Loudon Nelson, and I go up to the ranger behind the desk, and I say, I'd like to get the code for the bathroom. And she goes, are you here for a meeting, a function? I go, no, I'm not here for a function. I'm here to see Jeff about the sound. Do you have an appointment with Jeff? I said, no, I don't have an appointment with Jeff. We can't use the bathroom. So she kept keeping me from using the bathroom. And fortunately, one of the people who was lingering after the senior meal said, here's the code. You can get into the bathroom. But that shows you, I'm there to do business with Loudon Nelson, and they won't even let me use the toilet. So I told the ranger, I said, look I'm organizing this concert, I'm paying you money. You won't let me use the bathroom and because I'm not at the concert right now or anything. Next time you stop me and then you slow me down when I have to go this bad, I'm just going to go to the door of the men's room and piss on the side of it. And she goes then, well, I'm going to give you a ticket. I said, no, you're not going to give me a ticket because I'm just going to walk away. I'm not going to cooperate with you, talk to you, so forget it. You just either next time I show up in here, you give me the code. And that's that. That's the only thing that there is. So, anyway, I plan to share that tonight with City Council.
Indeed. We'll see if you carry good on your threat.
I would say that I have carried good on this threat in past experiences, and it really freaked people out.
I'm going to be there to take pictures.
What an expose.
Who are you, sir?
I'm Rabbi Phil Posner, and I have the honor of being the co-founder with Nicholas of something we call Conscience and Action. Conscience and Action is predicated on the principle that every one of us, no matter who we are, has a sense of consciousness of a better future for ourselves and for other people. But we also believe that conscience in and of itself is not sufficient to make change. We need action. And we are really lucky in this town to have people like Robert and Keith and Steve and so many others who are so passionate about committing themselves to action to help make community a healthier and a nicer place. In my viewpoint, what moves us, I'll speak for myself, is an appreciation for the reality of too much suffering in our society. I simply cannot imagine what it's like for a person who doesn't have a home with children at 2 a.m. to have to go find a place to pee. I simply cannot imagine what it must like be for a woman to have her menstrual period and not have a bathroom. Our obligation as human beings is to address the issue of suffering and do what we can to help make a difference. And when we get tired and we feel like we can't make a difference, I personally am inspired by a first-century rabbi named Tarfon, who wrote, I'll say it in Hebrew just for the fun of having you hear the sound of Hebrew. Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, v'lo ata ben charin lahi batel mimena, which means it is not up to you. You are not so free that you may desist from trying to make a difference. Thanks.
Did you speak yet, Nick? Did you speak?
The other half of consciousness, if it makes sense for you to speak next.
No, I don't know, whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the other co-founder of this Conscience and Action, Nicholas Whitehead. I travel around quite a bit to other cities in California, Northern California, and I think there's a much more humanistic quality in places like Santa Rosa and Sebastopol. That's a very small place, about the size of Capitola. But there's more kindness towards people who are living on the street or in other straitened circumstances. There's something very odd here in this particular city. I think it's due to the gentrification, new populations moving in here who have a lot of wealth. I don't begrudge them if God has favored them in this way. I don't begrudge that. But why don't they be more generous to the rest of us who have not acquired really sufficient wealth to live in anything like the style they do? I think corporations and big employers around here ought to be coming forth with some funding to fulfill all the social needs that we have in Santa Cruz City and County. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
I mistranslated Rabbi Tarfon's statement. It's not up to you to finish a task all by yourself, but neither are you so free that you don't have the responsibility to try to make a difference. I left the first half out.
I like that.
Back to the library with you, Phil.
Well, I think it might be right that because elites have moved in here, they're less merciful, because I notice all the surveys show that the elites are more dishonest and less willing to give of themselves than the middle class or the poor. But I think there's something beyond that too. I think that there's a distrust of working people or the poor being out on the streets that comes from colonial times. They've had laws against being out on the streets in groups ever since, and it's a way of controlling us. And number two, they want to divide the different strata of society from each other so that they can have more power. It's an old Anglo-Saxon custom. That's how they got India. And that's why England is called perfidious, because of all the lies that they taught. And that has been the custom of the elites ever since the beginning of our country, to lie about what we were able to do, what we should do. And they fight like blazes to keep us from being a democracy, because it's in their interest to keep all the power to themselves. They've done it ever since the time of the Constitution, when the slave states held more weight than any other. And I think that the only way that there's hope for any of us, because there is a class war and they are winning. And the only way we can fight back effectively is to get out and vote for progressives in big numbers, even those who think that it won't be profitable in the short term for themselves. Because if you only think of the short term, man, you're done. They can fool you, and because they play chess, not checkers. So get out and vote. There are a couple of good candidates on the ballot this year here in Santa Cruz, and there are plenty all over the country, especially women. So there's hope if you get active. Thank you.
And you are?
My name is Louise Drummond.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have an open mic. This protest was about folks mostly who are outside who can't use bathrooms because they've been specifically excluded. And I'm wondering if anybody here has had experiences they want to talk about or opinions about this, because that's why we're here. Anybody wants to talk, step up, even if you got blue gloves on. I don't care. Any thoughts on
I got
it?
a question.
Sure.
If a public restaurant has a restroom, but the water doesn't work in the sink, is that against the health code or something?
It's a good question. I don't have the answer to it.
I looked in the phone book and I couldn't find any restaurant, they got a public health room. I don't know if that's a
Are you outside yourself?
Oh, do I live? I'm homeless? No.
But you're concerned about this too.
Right.
Yeah, I think, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if anybody here does.
I thought that there was a law in most places, well, a regulation in the health department that restaurants had to have hand washing facilities.
It's probably true that restaurants do.
Well, that's what this is.
Which restaurant are we talking about?
Well, the Golden
The Golden Arch, is that which one, on Ocean or?
41st.
41st. Okay, I mean, I like to name names myself. Any thoughts? What's your name?
Bill.
Thank you. You've got any thoughts anybody else has? They want to say anything?
I see all these signs on the garbage cans around town that says "Keep Santa Cruz Clean," and I think we should tack on something to them and say, like, yeah, make toilets available to everybody.
Dig it. You had problems finding a toilet?
The only one I know of that I can count on is at the Traherne bus station.
And that's only during certain hours of the day, right?
Yeah, pretty much till 10, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know, but I mean, it's not. I mean, like sometimes you're not very close to it. So.
I hear you. Do you want to say who you are or not?
No, just somebody who needs toilets.
Say good. Thank you.
Thank you for saying it loud and clear.
Story is a
Y'all
little
need
too
toilets.
embarrassing to tell the public, but it has been recently happening, and of waking up at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning and having no place to go. So very, very serious emergency situations with long distance walking and finding enclosed areas.
And bowel control.
Oh, definitely, especially with long distance walking.
Have you heard about others having similar problems? Has it changed in the last few months?
In the 16 to 18 years that I've been homeless, I've never heard about it getting better.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Not today, but thank you for letting me
Goading you into talking?
free my mind.
Thank you.
Peace.
Actually been filming this whole thing, and was himself a homeless activist who, well, you didn't really open a bathroom, but you opened a campground for 6 months on City Hall grounds, and people were able to find a bathroom to use, right?
No, and that was actually a pretty big deal too. Let me just play with this. The flagpole, we started with just a few, but that was one of the very first things we asked for. We're only about a block away, actually half a block away from MST, which is like, your Greyhound Transit or the bus station right there. And, they just wouldn't open it for no reason at all. And it's like, we'll clean it for free. In fact, we'll even stock it. We'll pay for, all the supplies. And then you'll have it clean overnight and during the day, because your own worker will come and clean during the day. They weren't having it. So, of course, as more people came, what's going to happen? I mean,
Shit piled up?
Well, in one or two places, and you have to, not everyone behaves, so of course I get blamed for that. It's crazy, but all you got to do is open the bathrooms. When we need that throughout every single city park there is. And, even more, let's do more porta potties. This is great. I'm listening to these 6 porta potties coming up. And, it's crazy. Just the last couple times just being here has been crazy. Over at London Nelson, you go in there and they're militant about that code and letting you use the bathroom. And
not letting you use the bathroom.
Exactly. Well, and then they say, oh, go over to the police department. So we go over to the police department. Nope, that's closed today. Oh, so we had to go back to London Nelson and go, okay, well, now what do we do? Can we use it now, please? Because it's been 15 minutes. I mean, geez, are you kidding me? Why don't you use the depot one down there? It's great. The one that's outside, because it's broken too, the building. In fact, it was actually fixed by the time we got down there. So, but the faulty information, they're not even able to give you accurate information. And here you are, you're on your last seconds before soiling yourself. And they're no regard. And these policies, okay, the people's jokes reveal their intention. And those intentions are what are creating these policies right behind us. And we got to realize that it's a power struggle with the city, the county, and mainly the administrations of those. Because everybody else is just trying to keep their seat warm, let me get reelected. I'm so disillusioned. Down where I'm at, we've got an RV ban. Luckily, you dodged a bullet with that one. But Seaside put out a thing, no RVs within city limits. Marina put out a thing, no RVs within city limits. Then it comes out to Lapis Road, and I jumped in on that point. And these RVs are told you can't be there either. So they go from Lapis to Monty, And, you know, this is an incremental 2-3 months at a time. People trying to just settle and you know, exist. It's expensive to drive your car anywhere. And these are actually the more housebroken people, ready to be trained for services or you know, led into a program or whatever. They're nice people, nice. You know, I've dealt with them 3 times. They're very intelligent. They're worried about, you know, keeping their place clean, making sure that their RV is up to date and registered and tagged and insured and smogged and, you know, everything they got to do to be legal. And being legal anywhere inside the state of California except for the county seat of Monterey. Horrible. And now they're entering an agreement to open a warming shelter, fat sum of money, millions of dollars to do a new building. See how we're champions for the homeless? We're just going to make sure that we break people first before we do anything to help them. We'll set them up in a line. Maybe 10 years from now, you might become an applicant for a slot. You know, a dime a dozen. And like they were saying, the Campesino field worker, there's been one transition to the next, and right now homeless is the civil rights movement of our era. And we're not making much progress. We're definitely losing. Like someone else said, we need a progressive wave going on. I almost felt that going. And it's so difficult because we're so consumerized. There's so much money, so much potential. I mean, seriously, we have a token economy. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing my trick unless you give me a treat. And we've lost the value of humanity by doing that. Paper, of course they're going to value paper more than people, especially when they can print the paper and write the paper and change the paper and make it whatever they want to. And how come you can't follow the rules? It's so heartbreaking because here they are patting themselves on the back down where I'm at, the city and county. They're patting themselves on the back being the champions of the homeless. And this is the way they're treating people. Get out of here, you're garbage, you're trash, you're ugly. You got no business being here. Well, why don't we actually deal with people? Give them some minimal rules. Give them some minimal space. And let them be. I mean, we've already had solutions. They're rejecting all of them because it's about sucking money out of people. Especially if we can take advantage of it. And that seems to be the concept that we roll by, and we enjoy it. You know, and people lapping it up, $150 a plate almost every night to go to some, you know, gala event and get drunk in public and be mad that somebody's drinking a 40 outside. It's like, you paid $50 to do it, so what do you worry about this guy for? It's really disappointing. I wish we did a lot better. And we can, we just don't want to. And that's the immaturity of this society. When are we going to grow up? Hey, we practice what we preach. If we don't do that, what are we doing? We're actually hurting people. We're abusing people. This is domestic terrorism on purpose. We're spending money. Money doing what? The cops are getting paid, tow truck company, landscape company, the administration is getting paid. Everybody getting paid. Who's paying for it? Human suffering. That's what's paying for it. It's wrong. Just to decide who can we pick on? Who can we pick on? We've done this generational. It's colonialism still. We're not interested in people. We'll say it, but do we mean it? Let's show it. Show it. Or don't say it, because you're a liar otherwise. Nobody likes a liar.
Thank you. Here's Rochelle Naroyan, if you want to talk to her.
Oh, another champion on this.
Yes.
And then, but I mean, I'm not saying this proves that everything's good. I just wanted you to have. These are bathrooms that are open during the day for the most part, and then these 3 are available 24 hours. These 3 down here are available 24/7. And then these are available, I don't know, I mean, each one will have different hours, but
Those
it's
are
pretty
porta
much
potties.
during the day. Yeah, the 3 ones that are 24 are porta potties.
And they're not disabled accessible either.
I don't know. I don't know. I know that you can get the porta potties that are disabled
can,
accessible, but I don't know if they are. That's a good question. So, well, I just wanted to give this to you as a reference, and I think we're going to have more copies in the back for other people to see, but I just wanted you to have that.
We were actually given this copy last time we did the protest.
Oh, you were? I didn't know that.
No, that's good.
Okay.
I understand you're trying to provide information. We tried to use the bathrooms. It was on a non-council day. One of them happened to be open, the women's bathroom. So the women were able to use it. The men asked, can we use the bathroom? They went over and closed the women's bathroom and would not allow anyone access, including elderly and disabled people, in this protest to the bathrooms here.
Okay.
Are you prepared to do anything about that yourself?
I've got to talk to staff and find a solution. The amount of money we spend fixing these things and the
Do you have any figures on that?
vandalism. I don't have specific figures, but I've asked for them, so I hope staff will give them to me.
We got
But they
some
have
of
some
the
pretty gnarly pictures that I've been shown of people just
There was
stuffing
one or two
things.
instances of vandalism at Loudon Nelson in the last year, according to the emails from Isbeth Ray, who, is pretty much presumably on top of it. I mean, she's concerned about the people camping outside in the Loudon Nelson Park, which happened after the San Lorenzo campground closed, and there was a smaller campground, as you know, opened up. So people had no place to go. They went to Loudon Nelson, and this became the basis for them closing the bathrooms.
Well, there's other bases too. The teen center uses that bathroom, and the teens were going in and seeing people shoot up and seeing needles, and I don't think that's real healthy for teenagers. So I understand that concern. As a parent of a teenager, if I had a teenager, I would be concerned.
I mean, is that a solution you recommend, locking the bathrooms for the last 6 months?
Yeah, probably needed to be done. I don't think our staff doesn't do stuff like that willy-nilly. I really don't believe that they do. So, but we need to figure out something. In fact, myself and two other council members were talking about it during the break. Like, it's $250,000 to do one of the Portland Blues, and that's just to buy it, and then that doesn't even count the cost to hook it up. And but I think if there's a solution, that's probably what we're going to need to do is get a few of the Portland Blues around town.
Well, you already have bathrooms that are set up that can be opened up at night.
Yeah, but the Portland Blues are pretty indestructible. Like, they're hard to vandalize, and then that takes away. Yeah, that takes away the issue of constant
You
money.
should look more closely into the vandalism myth here. Because
I don't think it's a myth.
Well, then you
Robert.
need to
Yeah,
give.
I'm sorry.
Well, I see you're walking away.
Yeah, I'm walking away because I'm supposed to start in 10 minutes, and I'm really hungry and thirsty, and I want to
get us some
and I've been up since 5:30 this morning.
Get us some evidence.
All right, I've asked for it, so I hope I get it, yeah. But I also trust staff too when they talk to me.
Well, get the evidence.
There were two people that requested time in advance. That was Phil Posner of Conscious in Action, and then a representative of HUB. I believe that's you. Well, now's her time. If she'd like to use it, if you'd like to use it, you can.
Well, how does Phil go first?
Well, Phil, you're up. 4 minutes.
She's out there.
Members of our Santa Cruz City Council, thanks for the 4 minutes that I'm being allowed. I probably spent 5 hours trying to edit this down so that I could get it to 4 minutes. At 2 previous scheduled council meetings last month, I stood at this very podium and respectfully requested that you address the issue of public bathrooms. And on the 31st, I followed up that request with a letter addressed to each of you by name and hand-delivered it to City Hall. Since then, despite additional phone calls, only one of you has extended me the courtesy of a partial reply, let alone a statement indicating that you would appoint a task force that would discuss and formulate a realistic proposal that will address homelessness, bathroom security, maintenance, etc. We said that we would bring to the table a list of concerns and possible solutions, and suggested that such a task force would consist of government representatives, interested organizations, and homeless individuals, all of whom we named. And to accomplish this, we suggested the task force should be given a realistic time frame to meet and bring a proposal to you for your approval. I and our Conscious in Action group have felt so helpless and discouraged by your ignoring us that I even considered publishing the following in our local press. Dear fellow citizens of Santa Cruz, please know that the elected members of our city council have either ignored or refused to even respond to our public two-time requests before the council and in writing that they appoint a task force to address the suffering of individuals whose homeless situation is exacerbated by the lack of public bathrooms open at nighttime, some even closed during the day. If you agree that homeless men, women, and children, including the general public, should have access to toilets to relieve themselves without the risk of being cited for indecent exposure, and or agree it is improper for our elected officials to either ignore or purposefully refuse to communicate with us, their constituents, you are welcome to join in our appeal. And I added my contact information. However, a loving ex-councilman whose opinion I cherish talked me out of that action. Nobody likes to be threatened. Further, please know that it is because I believe in good government and individuals like you who devote their time to making our community a healthier and better place with less suffering that I and members of Conscience in Action continue to appeal to your better nature. As you know, very recently, a federal judge in Boise ruled that not providing homeless with facilities for their health and welfare constitutes cruel and unusual punishment. Nevertheless, here in Santa Cruz, the giving of trespassing tickets, insufficient restrooms, no bathrooms open at night, is treating the homeless as though they are stray dogs, which means that someone has to pick up their excrement. As council members, your job is to uphold the Constitution and to impose public ethics and values on the corporation of the city. I admire you for taking on such a difficult job. However, by closing bathrooms, you are prioritizing management over the public good, ethics, and the Constitution. That means you are not doing your job. Is it really so difficult a task to work with us by appointing a task force to address this bathroom issue?
Thank you, sir.
Can I have one paragraph?
No, we gotta go to the next person, BT. Ursula? Thank you, Ursula. Thank you. Ursula, you have 4 minutes, and you're speaking on behalf of HUD.
Yes, I am.
Is that correct?
Thank you for the
Yeah, your time begins. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Santa Cruz.
Can you please talk in the mic?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's right at the one to your right.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah.
Okay. Santa Cruz, California deserves better open bathroom policies and legislation. Santa Cruz City County people with special needs require access to all public and retail bathrooms that have employee bathrooms that include the elderly, the disabled, and those without housing. According to HUD national statistics, 42 to 40% of the U.S. homeless population has debilitating diseases and disorders that interfere with their activities of daily living and independent functioning. The Restroom Act, Alley's Law, is legislation that was passed and recognized by Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington. Where is progressive California in these list of states? There is also federal support for this legislation. Alley's Law is mainly for retail businesses. This law gives people with medical conditions the right to access a toilet. In Oregon and Tennessee, a person can present a medical card. They are called CAT weight cards. My own disabilities include irritable bowel and bladder, and my stuff isn't important. So anyway, going on, since the travesty of closing restrooms in Santa Cruz public buildings such as City Hall, except when there are special events or meetings, and the London Loudon Nelson Center, where only patrons, those people who attend events 15 minutes before and during and after events. And I heard that just recently that there are now porta potties. Is that correct? It's not correct?
No, there's three.
Not at Loudon Nelson. Okay, I heard that there were. Anyway, so on with that one. Not having access to a toilet really reeks of micro-discrimination towards the poor. It is especially harmful to the poor who cannot always pay for that yummy cup of coffee cake or that delicious cup of tea at their cafe. It is degrading to be turned away from a bathroom because of the inability to pay to attend to their events. There are, of course, the senior meals. But what happens to the people that aren't seniors? Where do they fit into this community? The intent of Ali's law is never again. And that is never again will someone have to soil their pants because they don't have access to a toilet.
Yes.
This needs to be extended to all Santa Cruz County government buildings and all parks and recreation, as well as the retail stores. For our neighbors who live outside 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, bathrooms are needed.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Louise Drummond, and I'm here to speak about the bathroom issues. Maybe the problem is not the council. Maybe the problem is the council's readiness to cooperate with the bureaucracy. And maybe the bureaucracy has grown too big and too costly in the city. You know, it costs $250,000 for a portable bathroom, a stall. Come on. Maybe most of that is for the couple of policemen to guard the stall. I mean, do you need to guard against men peeing on the street? Is that what they're for? Why can't we get somebody to attend the bathroom at $12 or $14 an hour? You know, if you need a guard, give some work to the general public instead of well-meaning but very highly expensive policemen. And give some thought to trimming down the bureaucracy here. You know, we pay a whole lot of money, and I personally feel betrayed by the council's vote last time on the library, when we all knew that the public didn't want it. But you went along with Martine. I was really angry about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I second both. I'm Keith McHenry, and I second Grant's thing about parking garage. That's very good. And Nathan's very impressive speech there. I support all of what he's saying there. And I just want to say, well, Food on Bombs is renting Loudon Nelson for a concert to raise money so we could be get equipment to be prepared in case there's an earthquake or larger other type of disaster. And Food on Bombs has a long history, including being the principal people providing the food for the survivors of Katrina for the first 8 months after the hurricane. And we were also providing food for 3 days in San Francisco, and even the San Francisco police depended on us for food in those first 3 days. So I go to Loudon Nelson today at the suggestion of staff to talk to Jeff about sound. And so, but I'm going between meetings and I have to pee really, really bad. So I go to the ranger, I said, I need to pee, I'd like to get the code. He said, are you here for an event? I said, no, I'm here just to see Jeff about sound. Do you have an appointment with Jeff for sound? She would not give me the code to the bathroom, even though I was there specifically. I think we're paying up roughly $200. And yet I'm not allowed to use the bathroom. Thankfully, Robin, who was a senior at the senior meal, was lingering, and he came and gave me the code to the bathroom. But that's outrageous. That's when it first hit me that, you know, what is the, it's fine to protect the bathroom and so on, but if a person walks up to a Ranger or staff, and I've been friends with Bob since the 80s, I totally appreciate what they're going through, but any person should be able to go up to somebody at Loudon Nelson staff and ask for the code and go to the bathroom. That's outrageous.
Thank you. Next speaker. Before you begin, I saw 2 show of hands. I think you wanted to speak. Can you stand up? Anyone who's here to speak, I see you in the front. Any other people that plan to speak at Oral Communications? I know other than those standing, Steve and Mr. Norris. And you, okay, please go ahead.
Mayor, can we get a report back from staff on what the policy is at Loudon Nelson as far as giving out bathroom codes and people using the bathroom?
Sure, yeah. I heard that. Please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Becky Johnson, and some of you I know and some of you I don't. You can contact me on Twitter, Becky Johnson 222. I'm here in Santa Cruz to bring the issue of the bathrooms to your attention. There's a lack of public bathrooms. There's a lack of private bathrooms offered by private businesses that are open to the public. This isn't anything new. I understand operating a bathroom and maintaining it and keeping it stocked and clean is an expense that every business and government entity bears. However, there's been a trend of closing down bathrooms that have been traditionally open to the public, such as at San Lorenzo Park, which I guess was recently reopened. What were you thinking, closing that down? There used to be a bathroom right across the hall here that was open during normal business hours for any person visiting the City Hall campus here to use the restroom. Now it's only closed. Now it's only open when the meetings are happening. And so you, as the need has been increasing, you've been shutting down public bathrooms and not providing leadership to private businesses to open their bathrooms to the public, specifically businesses that sell food or beverages. Need to remind you that coffee is both a laxative and a diuretic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diane Brodell. On the bathroom issue, I'm lucky enough, I live at the River Street shelter on Coral Street. I'm lucky enough to live in the loft. I have a bed downstairs, and then there's showers. But him speaking on, I know they mess up the bathrooms and stuff. Of course they do. They do it in the law, you know. But, you know, the urine all over the street and the feces all over the street is far worse than, you know, toilets. I mean, come on. I think definitely on that. And the fact I'm a 71-year-old disabled woman, and I have bladder infections a lot, and if I have to hold it to get to the bathroom, it doesn't work well for me. Also, another thing, being there at the homeless shelter right by that corner where people come in, the sound of the cars and the motorcycles is deafening. We have a wall, but we have to cover our ears so that we can, you know, it really hurts our ears. We can't have a conversation or anything, so.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, City Council Steve Plage, you've heard the voice of passion here talking about the bathroom issue, so I'll lend you the voice of reason, and believe me, I'm as surprised as anyone. Abraham Lincoln observed that the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. And that's what we have here in Santa Cruz. We have to do away with dogmatic finding of blame and assigning responsibility about why we don't have adequate bathrooms for folks, and really address the problem together. The problem is not really the number of bathrooms available, as Councilmember Naroyan has suggested and given us a list of bathrooms that we have here in Santa Cruz. The problem is 24-hour access bathrooms for people who really have to relieve themselves overnight, because this is primarily our unsheltered residents. It is a bit of a political problem, but it is also a stereotypical problem that people say, well, we don't really have the ability or the funds or the will to do this together. When I was here last, I suggested that we have a citizen-sponsored porta potty program, which we continue to work on. I appreciate the support of Council Members Brown and Crone. I appreciate the City Attorney's Office for finding that there is the possibility of a permitting process that's available. We need to work together. The dogmas of the past here can be remedied by working together to find a common solution. We as residents and as citizens are willing to do our part. We're willing to fund the bathrooms. I have, as I mentioned before, the ACLU, United Nations Association, Food Not Bombs are willing to fund these, and we're also willing to take responsibility for the maintenance of them. And that it will be something that we can enter into as an agreement with the City Council. But please consider this, please move forward on it, please direct staff to find the proper permitting process for us so that we can together address the problem with 24-hour access bathrooms for our unsheltered residents. Thank you so much.
Please go ahead, Mr. Norris. Members of the community, including the City Council, it's clear that the council has lost control of the issue or doesn't care about the issue in terms of bathrooms for people who are disabled, seniors, and homeless. I mean, it's been before you for months. Instead, I was given a 3-month-old list of bathrooms, isn't even up to date, that Rochelle Naroyan presented as a washing her hands, saying she trusts the staff, that everything is rosy and fine. I mean, the community needs to know that this issue is not going to be solved by this council without some significant public outcry. And I suggest people come tomorrow to the David Rovics concert, which is being held at Loudon Nelson Center, purportedly a public-funded building with a public-funded bathroom, and make clear how they feel about this whole situation. I am a nonviolent kind of guy. Though people who are denied access to bathrooms, and I think you would feel if you didn't have a nice little comfortable bathroom in the back, or the one that's open here, only on the days when you are doing a council session, you would feel that too. You would feel the kind of frustration, rage, and humiliation which you ignore and deny other people. Trusting your staff. That's the problem in this particular city council system. No matter who sits in these chairs, it's the people who get the high salaries, the Tina Schultz, the Susie O'Hara's, the Martine Burnells, who have the final word on these issues. What that means is they're the people we're going to have to go talk to. They're the people in front of whose offices we have to picket. They're the people that we're going to have to hold accountable, who have all the comfort in the world to use public facilities, and who have so much power over the rest of the community. And that you, while you look at us attentively as we speak to you for the minor amount of time you give us, you pay no attention to the issues that we raise. So the community, I encourage you to come down 7 p.m. tomorrow, listen to David Rovics, it's free, and use the bathroom. And come down the next day and do the same.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Morris.
you.
Next speaker, please. And you still are our final speaker of the evening for oral communications.
I would just like to say, to the benefit of the council, the incentive is there for local business owners to open their doors and provide public bathrooms. I believe you offer a stipend to anyone who does so, like what is it, the pizza place on Pacific, also Bookshop Santa Cruz. There's lots of people who do it. But public bathrooms outside of local businesses, as far as like city provided in the parks, etc., like that, I do see those closed more often than not. I could be wrong. I mean, I am super interested in like, because there's Food Not Bombs, which is a charity that offers food for free on the streets. I'd be super interested to see some initiatives toward charities that can provide restrooms if the funding isn't there to operate these restrooms publicly from the city. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.